What if I told you that the woman everyone dismissed as invisible became the most powerful person in the room with just 3 words? Stay with me, because what happens in the next few minutes will completely change how you see love, power, and destiny. This is the story of Kendra Morgan, and I promise you, you've never heard anything like this before. It was Valentine's Day Eve in Seoul, South Korea. The kind of cold February night where your breath turns to fog and the city lights reflect off patches of ice like scattered diamonds. Inside the Imperial Plaza Hotel, the annual Valentine's Gala was in full swing. This wasn't just any party. This was where Korea's elite came to show off their wealth, their connections, and their carefully curated perfect lives. CEOs, celebrities, old money families. Everyone who was anyone had paid $50,000 just to walk through those doors. Kendra Morgan stood near the coat check, smoothing down her navy blue dress. It wasn't designer. She'd found it at a vintage shop in Itaewon for $30. But it fit her well, hugged her curves in all the right places, and made her dark skin glow under the chandelier lights. Still, she felt every eye on her. Not in admiration. In confusion. In judgment. She was probably the only black woman in a room of 300 people, and everyone seemed determined to let her know she didn't belong. A woman in a glittering gold gown whispered loudly to her friend in Korean, not even trying to hide her disdain. Is she a guest? Or did she sneak in? Her friend giggled, covering her mouth with a jeweled hand. Kendra understood every word. She'd been living in Seoul for 4 years, teaching English at a language academy in Gangnam. Her Korean was nearly fluent, but she learned early on that sometimes it was better to let people think you didn't understand. You learned a lot about people when they thought you couldn't hear them. Maybe she's someone's +1, another voice chimed in. You know how these foreign women are. Always trying to attach themselves to successful Korean men. Kendra's jaw tightened, but she kept her face neutral. She'd dealt with this before. The assumptions. The stereotypes. The way some people looked at her like she was either completely invisible or wildly out of place. She took a deep breath and reminded herself why she was here. This wasn't about them. This was about something much bigger. Before we continue, I need you to do me a favor. If you're loving this story so far, hit that like button right now. And if you're new to Afro-Korean love tales, subscribe and turn on notifications, because trust me, you don't want to miss how this story unfolds. Now let's get back to Kendra, because things are about to get very interesting. Kendra walked toward the bar, her heels clicking against the marble floor. She ordered a glass of wine, trying to blend into the background. That's when she felt it. That prickling sensation on the back of her neck. Someone was watching her. Not with curiosity or judgment. With intensity. With purpose. She turned slowly, scanning the crowd. And then she saw him. He stood near the far wall, partially hidden in shadow, but impossible to miss. Tall, easily 6'2". Sharp jawline. Dark hair styled back from his face. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent, and he carried himself with the kind of quiet power that made people instinctively move out of his way. His eyes, dark and unreadable, were locked directly on her. Kendra's breath caught. Not because he was handsome, though he absolutely was. But because of the way he looked at her. Like he knew her. Like he'd been waiting for her. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and for a moment, everything else faded. The whispers. The judgment. The glittering superficiality of it all. It was just him and her, connected by an invisible thread neither of them could explain. Then someone stepped into her line of sight, breaking the spell. When she looked again, he was gone. "Excuse me, miss." A hotel staff member appeared at her elbow, his expression polite but firm. "May I see your invitation?" Here we go, Kendra thought. She reached into her small clutch and pulled out the embossed invitation. The staff member studied it like he was examining a forgery, his lips pressed into a thin line. "This says +1, he noted. "Where is your primary guest?" "Running late," Kendra said smoothly. "Traffic from Incheon." It wasn't entirely a lie. Her friend Soo-jin, who worked in event planning, had given her the invitation last minute when a client canceled. Soo-jin was supposed to meet her here, but she'd texted 20 minutes ago saying she was stuck in traffic. The staff member didn't look convinced, but before he could say anything else, a voice cut through the tension like a knife through silk. "She's with me." Kendra turned. It was him, the man from across the room. Up close, he was even more striking. His features were sharp and aristocratic, the kind of face that belonged on billboards or movie screens. But it was his presence that truly commanded attention. He radiated authority, danger, and something else she couldn't quite name. The staff member's face went pale. He actually stumbled backward a step, bowing so deeply Kendra thought he might tip over. "Mr. Kang, I apologize, I didn't realize. Please forgive me." Mr. Kang didn't even glance at him. His eyes stayed on Kendra, dark and intense. "Come with me," he said quietly. It wasn't a request. Kendra's heart hammered in her chest. Every instinct told her this man was dangerous. Not in a violent way, but in a way that suggested he held power most people couldn't imagine. Yet something deeper, something she couldn't explain, told her to trust him. She took his offered arm. The moment she did, the entire energy of the room shifted. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. The same people who had been whispering about her moments ago now stared with wide eyes and dropped jaws. Kang Min Jae, because that's who he was, led Kendra through the crowd like Moses parting the Red Sea. People literally stepped aside, some bowing, others simply frozen in shock. He guided her to a private section of the ballroom, cordoned off with velvet ropes, where a single table sat elevated above the rest. The best view in the house. He pulled out her chair himself. Kendra sat, feeling like she'd stepped into an alternate reality. "Thank you," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," he said, sitting across from her. "I did." His Korean was formal, but he switched to English seamlessly, his accent barely noticeable. "You're American?" "Chicago originally," Kendra said. "You speak English well." "I studied at Columbia," he replied. "Business and international relations. Though I found the streets of New York taught me more than the classrooms ever did." There was something in the way he said it. Something that hinted at a story much darker than a typical study abroad experience. "I'm Kendra," she said, extending her hand. He took it, and the moment his skin touched hers, she felt it again. That electric connection. That sense of inevitability. "Kang Min Jae," he said. "Though I suspect you've already figured out that everyone here knows exactly who I am." "I don't," Kendra admitted. "Should I?" For the first time, the corner of his mouth lifted in what might have been a smile. "Most would say yes. I would say it depends on whether you prefer truth or comfortable lies." Before Kendra could respond, a waiter appeared with champagne. Not just any champagne. Dom Perignon, the vintage kind that cost thousands per bottle. He poured for both of them without asking, his hands shaking slightly. "Okay, pause for just a second. Are you completely hooked yet? Because this is just the beginning." Comment below and tell me what you think is going to happen next, and if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We drop new Afro-Korean love stories every single week, and trust me, they only get better from here. Now back to the story, because Min Jae is about to reveal something that changes everything. After the waiter scurried away, Min Jae raised his glass. "To unexpected meetings," he said. Kendra clinked her glass against his, studying his face. "Why did you help me?" "Who says I helped you?" His eyes glinted with something that might have been amusement. "Perhaps you're helping me." "How could I possibly help someone like you?" "Someone like me," he repeated softly. "And what do you think someone like me is?" Kendra considered her words carefully. "Powerful. Connected. Someone who makes hotel staff bow and crowds part. Someone who gets the best table without asking. Someone people fear." "Fear," Min Jae said, tasting the word. "Yes, they fear me." "Do you?" Kendra met his gaze directly. "Should I?" "That," he said, leaning back in his chair, "is the right question. Most people don't ask. They just assume." "Then I'm not most people." "No," he agreed, his voice dropping lower. "You're definitely not." The music shifted to something slower, more intimate. Around them, couples began moving toward the dance floor. Min Jae stood and offered his hand. "Dance with me." Again, not a request. But Kendra found herself taking his hand anyway, letting him lead her to the center of the floor. The crowd parted for them automatically, creating a circle of space as if they were royalty. Which, based on everyone's reactions, Min Jae might as well have been. His hand settled on the small of her back, warm through the thin fabric of her dress. Her hand rested on his shoulder, feeling the solid muscle beneath the expensive suit. They moved together naturally, as if they'd been dancing together for years instead of minutes. "Everyone's staring," Kendra murmured. "Let them," Min Jae said. "They've been staring at you since you walked in. At least now they know better than to disrespect you." "And why would they know that?" "Because you're with me. And everyone in this room knows that what's mine, I protect." The possessiveness in his tone should have bothered her. Should have sent up red flags. Instead, it sent a shiver down her spine that had nothing to do with fear. "I'm not yours," she said softly. His eyes locked onto hers. "Not yet." The song ended, but neither of them moved. They stood there, swaying slightly, lost in each other, while the rest of the world buzzed around them. Then a man approached, younger than Min Jae, dressed in an expensive suit with a Rolex that could probably pay off student loans. He bowed deeply to Min Jae before speaking in rapid Korean. "Hyungnim, there's a situation that requires your attention. It's urgent." Min Jae's jaw tightened, the only sign of his irritation. He responded in Korean, his tone brooking no argument. "It can wait." "But sir, it's about the Busan shipment." "I said," Min Jae cut him off, his voice deadly quiet. "It can wait." The man paled and bowed again, backing away quickly. Kendra had understood every word. And the mention of shipments, combined with the fear everyone showed Min Jae, painted a picture she'd been trying not to see. "You're not just a businessman, are you?" she asked once they were alone again. Min Jae looked at her for a long moment. "Would it matter if I wasn't?" "I don't know," Kendra admitted honestly. "I don't even know why I'm still standing here. I should probably run in the opposite direction. But you won't." "How do you know?" "Because you felt it too," he said simply. "The moment our eyes met. You felt the same thing I did. Like recognizing someone you've known your entire life, even though you've never met them before." Kendra's heart skipped. Because he was right. She had felt exactly that. "That's crazy," she whispered. "Most real things are." Before she could respond, the lights dimmed and a spotlight hit the stage at the front of the ballroom. A man in a tuxedo took the microphone, his voice booming through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us for the 20th annual Valentine's Gala. As you know, tonight is about celebrating love in all its forms. And we have a special tradition. Each year, some of Seoul's most eligible bachelors announce their Valentine for the year, making a charitable donation in their honor." Kendra felt Min Jae tense beside her. "Every year, they do this," he murmured. "A spectacle. A performance." "You don't participate?" she asked. "I never have before." Before. That word hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. One by one, men took the stage. A CEO announced his Valentine was his wife of 30 years, donating 5 million won to a children's hospital. A celebrity announced his girlfriend, donating to an animal shelter. Each announcement was met with applause and photos. Then the MC's voice rang out again. "And now we have someone very special. A man who has never participated in this tradition before. Please welcome Kang Min Jae." The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Kendra's eyes went wide. "Min Jae, you don't have to." But he was already walking toward the stage, moving with that same purposeful grace. Every eye in the room followed him. The whispers grew louder. Speculation ran wild. He took the microphone, and the room fell into absolute silence. Kendra's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. Min Jae's eyes scanned the crowd until they found her. Locked onto her. He smiled, genuine and warm, an expression that transformed his entire face. "I've never believed in traditions for tradition's sake," he began, his voice carrying effortlessly through the ballroom. "I've never seen the point in public declarations of private feelings. But tonight, I met someone who changed my mind about a lot of things." The crowd leaned forward collectively, hanging on his every word. Kendra felt frozen in place, unable to move, unable to breathe. This couldn't be happening. They'd just met. This had to be some kind of joke, some elaborate setup she didn't understand. My Valentine this year, Min Jae continued, his eyes never leaving Kendra's face, is a woman who walked into this room tonight and was judged by every single person here before she even had a chance to speak. A woman who was mocked, dismissed, and disrespected. A woman who showed more grace and dignity in the face of cruelty than most of you have shown in your entire lives. The room went deathly silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Several people shifted uncomfortably, suddenly very interested in their champagne glasses. Her name is Kendra Morgan, Min Jae said, his voice ringing clear and strong. And she is my Valentine. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. The threat in those last words was unmistakable. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The most powerful people in Seoul sat like statues, afraid to even breathe wrong. In her honor, Min Jae continued, I'm donating 50 million won to the International Education Foundation, which provides scholarships for foreign teachers working in underserved communities throughout Korea. Teachers like Kendra, who give their time and energy to help children who would otherwise be forgotten. The applause started slowly, hesitantly, then built to a crescendo. But it wasn't the warm, genuine applause the others had received. This was the sound of people clapping because they were terrified not to. Min Jae handed the microphone back and walked off the stage. He moved through the crowd, which parted for him like water, until he stood directly in front of Kendra. He extended his hand. Shall we get out of here? Kendra's mind was spinning. This was insane. All of it. She should say no. She should go home, forget this ever happened, go back to her normal life teaching irregular verbs and helping students with pronunciation. But when she looked into Min Jae's eyes, she saw something that made her throw caution to the wind. Vulnerability. Hope. Like he was just as surprised by this connection as she was, and just as desperate to understand it. She took his hand. They walked out of the ballroom together, past hundreds of staring faces, past the woman in the gold dress who had mocked her earlier and now looked like she might faint, past hotel staff who bowed so low their foreheads nearly touched their knees. A sleek black car was waiting outside, a driver holding the door open. Min Jae helped Kendra inside, then slid in beside her. The interior was all leather and luxury, with privacy glass separating them from the driver. As they pulled away from the hotel, Kendra finally found her voice. What just happened back there? I told the truth, Min Jae said simply. We just met. How can I be your Valentine? We don't even know each other. Don't we? He turned to face her fully. Tell me honestly, Kendra. When you looked at me across that room, what did you feel? She wanted to lie. Wanted to play it safe. But something about him made her want to be honest. Like I'd been waiting for you. Like somehow I already knew you. Exactly, he said softly. I felt the same thing. I've met thousands of people in my life. Beautiful women, powerful women, interesting women. None of them made me feel anything close to what I felt the moment I saw you. But that's not logical, Kendra protested. You can't just decide someone is your Valentine after knowing them for an hour. Who says? Min Jae smiled. My grandmother used to tell me a story. She said that souls recognize each other. That before we're born, we make agreements with certain people. We promise to find each other, to help each other, to love each other. She said that when you meet one of those souls, you know immediately. There's no logic to it. It just is. You believe that? I didn't, he admitted. Until tonight. The car glided through Seoul's streets, past neon signs and late-night cafes, past couples holding hands and street vendors selling roasted chestnuts. Kendra watched the city go by, trying to process everything. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere we can talk. Really talk. Without 300 people watching our every move. He paused. Unless you want me to take you home? I'll understand if this is all too much, too fast. It was too much. It was too fast. It was completely insane. But Kendra heard herself say no. I want to talk. I want to understand what this is. If you're still watching, drop a comment and let me know. Would you have gotten in that car? Would you have trusted Min Jae? And don't forget to share this video with someone who loves a good romance story, because Afro Korean Love Tales is bringing you content you won't find anywhere else. Now, let's see where Min Jae is taking Kendra. The car climbed up into the hills above Seoul, away from the crowded streets and into an area of traditional Hanok houses mixed with modern mansions. They finally stopped in front of a stunning property, a beautiful blend of Korean traditional architecture and contemporary design. The gate opened automatically, and they drove through manicured gardens lit by soft landscape lighting. "Is this your home?" Kendra asked. "One of them," Min Jae said. "I have apartments in the city for convenience. But this is where I come when I want peace." He helped her out of the car and led her inside. The interior was breathtaking. High ceilings with exposed wooden beams. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights below. Minimalist furniture that somehow felt warm rather than cold. Art on the walls that even Kendra's untrained eye could tell was worth a fortune. "Would you like tea? Coffee? Something stronger?" Min Jae asked, shrugging off his suit jacket and draping it over a chair. He looked more relaxed here, more himself. "Tea would be nice," Kendra said, still taking it all in. He disappeared into what she assumed was the kitchen, and Kendra wandered over to the windows. Seoul spread out below like a blanket of lights, beautiful and alive. She could see why he came here for peace. It felt like being above the world, separate from all the chaos and noise. Min Jae returned with 2 cups of tea, steam rising in delicate spirals. He handed her one and stood beside her at the window. "I need to be honest with you," he said after a moment of comfortable silence. "About who I am. What I do." "You're not just a businessman," Kendra said. It wasn't a question. "No." He took a sip of tea, choosing his words carefully. "My family has been in Seoul for 5 generations. We started as merchants, then grew into construction, then real estate, then investments. Legitimate businesses, all of them. But in Korea, especially in the old days, you couldn't grow that big without dealing with people who operated in the shadows. Protection money. Favors owed. Connections that were more important than contracts. The Mafia," Kendra said quietly. "We don't call it that here. We call it the Jiandol. But yes, essentially. My grandfather made deals with them. My father expanded those relationships. And I inherited all of it when my father died 5 years ago. So you're a mob boss." Min Jae smiled, but there was no humor in it. "I prefer to think of myself as someone who inherited a complicated legacy and is trying to navigate it the best I can. I've been working for years to legitimize everything. To cut ties with the illegal operations, to clean up the family name. But it's not simple. These relationships go back decades. You can't just walk away." "Why are you telling me this?" Kendra asked. "We just met. You could have kept me in the dark." "Because," Min Jae said, turning to face her fully, "if this is going to be anything real, it needs to start with honesty. You deserve to know what you're potentially getting into. The danger. The scrutiny. The fact that my enemies might try to use you against me. The fact that my world is complicated and often dark." Kendra's hands tightened around her teacup. This was the moment. The moment where a smart woman would thank him for his honesty, call a cab, and never look back. Get back to her safe, predictable life. But something in her refused to walk away. "I grew up on the south side of Chicago," she said softly. "My father was a cop. A good one, who actually cared about the community. He was killed when I was 16. Shot during a robbery at a convenience store where he'd stopped to buy my mother flowers for their anniversary." Min Jae's expression softened with genuine sympathy. "After he died," Kendra continued, "I could have been angry. Could have hated the world. But my mother told me something that stuck with me. She said that we don't get to choose what happens to us, but we do get to choose what we do with it. We can let it make us bitter, or we can let it make us better." Your mother sounds like a wise woman. She is. She's also the reason I came to Korea. She told me to go live my life. To see the world. To not let fear keep me small. Kendra met his eyes. "So, I'm not going to judge you based on what your grandfather did, or what your father did, or even what you might have had to do to survive in that world. I'm going to judge you based on who you are right now, in this moment. And right now, you've shown me more respect and protection in one night than most people I've known for years." Something shifted in Min Jae's expression. Relief, maybe? Or hope? "You're extraordinary," he said quietly. "Do you know that?" "I'm really not," Kendra said with a small laugh. I'm just a girl from Chicago who teaches English and can't figure out how to work the fancy bidet in her apartment. That made him laugh, a real, genuine laugh that transformed his entire face. I could help you with that. The bidet or being extraordinary? Both. They smiled at each other, and the tension that had been building between them shifted into something warmer, something that felt like the beginning of real connection. Tell me about your students, Min Jae said, settling onto the sofa and patting the seat beside him. You teach at a language academy? Kendra sat down, tucking her feet under her. In Gangnam. Most of my students are adults who need English for their jobs. But I also volunteer twice a week at a community center in Itaewon, teaching kids whose families can't afford the expensive academies. That's what I meant about the donation, Min Jae said. Those kids, the ones that society overlooks, they're the ones who need the most help. How did you know I work with kids like that? I didn't, specifically. But I could tell from the way you carried yourself. You have that look that people get when they actually care about others. It's rare in my world. What about you? Kendra asked. If you could do anything, if you weren't dealing with your family's legacy, what would you do? Min Jae was quiet for a moment, like no one had ever asked him that before. I think I'd build things. Real things. I have an architecture degree I've never used. I used to design buildings in my spare time, before I got too busy managing everything else. Spaces where people could live and work and feel safe. Feel human. That's beautiful, Kendra said softly. Why don't you do it? Because I have responsibilities. People who depend on me. Employees, family members, even some of the Jeondal connections. If I walk away, I leave a power vacuum. And power vacuums get filled by people much worse than me. So you're trapped. I prefer to think of it as committed to seeing a long-term plan through. In another 5 years, maybe 10, I'll have transitioned everything. Then I can walk away clean. That's a long time to put your dreams on hold. What about you? Min Jae countered. What are your dreams? Surely not to teach English in Seoul forever, as noble as that is. Kendra smiled. Honestly? I don't know. I came here because I needed adventure. Needed to prove to myself that I could make it somewhere completely different. But lately, I've been thinking about what comes next. Maybe graduate school. Maybe starting my own educational nonprofit. Maybe writing a book about my experiences. I just know that I want my life to matter. I want to help people who need it. Beyond that, I'm figuring it out as I go. I like that, Min Jae said. The honesty of not having it all figured out. They talked for hours. About everything and nothing. About growing up in Chicago versus growing up in Seoul. About their favorite foods and their worst fears and the books that changed their lives. Kendra learned that Min Jae could quote poetry in 3 languages, that he played piano but only when he was alone, that he'd never been in love before because he'd never trusted anyone enough to let them in. Min Jae learned that Kendra sang in the shower, that she was terrified of spiders but had once fought off a guy twice her size who was harassing a student, that she believed in love but had been hurt enough times to be cautious about it. The night melted away. At some point, they'd moved closer together on the sofa. At some point, Min Jae's arm had found its way around her shoulders. At some point, Kendra had stopped questioning the insanity of this entire situation and just let herself feel. It's almost sunrise, Min Jae said eventually, glancing at his watch. I should get you home. You probably have work tomorrow. Actually, it's Saturday, Kendra said. No classes. Then stay, he said softly. Just to watch the sunrise. Then I'll take you home. I promise I'm not trying to. I know, Kendra interrupted. And yes, I'd like to watch the sunrise with you. They moved to the balcony, wrapping themselves in warm blankets against the February cold. The sky was just beginning to lighten in the east, deep purple giving way to pink and gold. Kendra, Min Jae said as they watched the sun begin to rise over Seoul. I know this is crazy. I know we just met. But I meant what I said at the gala. I want to see where this goes. If you'll let me. Kendra looked at him, this complicated, powerful, surprisingly gentle man who had defended her in front of hundreds of people, who had opened up to her about his darkest secrets, who looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. I want that too, she said. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll always be honest with me. Even when the truth is hard. Even when you think it might scare me away. Because I can handle a lot, but I can't handle lies. Min Jae took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. I promise. Complete honesty always. Even when it's hard. The sun broke fully over the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold. Kendra leaned her head against Min Jae's shoulder, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt completely at peace. The next few weeks were like living in a dream. Min Jae was attentive without being overwhelming. He'd send her good morning texts that made her smile over her coffee. He'd show up at her apartment with takeout from her favorite restaurants, the ones she'd mentioned casually in conversation. He remembered everything. The fact that she loved tteokbokki, but only from the street vendor near Gangnam Station. That she had a student named Ji-hoon who was struggling with confidence and needed extra encouragement. That her mother's birthday was coming up in March. But he also gave her space. He didn't demand all her time or try to control her life. He understood that she had work, had friends, had a life that existed before him and would continue regardless of where their relationship went. Kendra's best friend and roommate, Jessica, was less enthused about the whole situation. I'm just saying, be careful, Jessica said one evening as they sat in their tiny apartment eating ramen and watching K-dramas. Jessica was a fellow English teacher from California, and they'd been roommates for 2 years. You don't really know this guy. I know enough, Kendra said, twirling noodles around her chopsticks. He's been nothing but respectful and honest with me. He's also apparently connected to organized crime, Jessica pointed out. That's not exactly boyfriend of the year material. He's trying to get out of that world. He's been working on it for years. That's what he told you. But Kendra, come on. Use your head. This guy shows up out of nowhere, makes this huge public declaration, sweeps you off your feet. It's like something out of a movie. Real life doesn't work like that. Maybe it does sometimes, Kendra said quietly. Maybe some things are just meant to be. Jessica sighed, her expression softening. I'm not trying to rain on your parade. I just don't want to see you get hurt. You've been through enough already. She was referring to Kendra's last relationship with Marcus. They'd dated for 3 years back in Chicago, were even talking about marriage, until Kendra found out he'd been cheating on her for most of their relationship. It had shattered her trust in men, in love, in her own judgment. Coming to Korea had been partly about escaping that pain. Min Jae is nothing like Marcus, Kendra said firmly. He's shown me more genuine care in 3 weeks than Marcus did in 3 years. Okay, Jessica said, holding up her hands in surrender. I'll back off. Just promise me you'll be smart about this. Keep your eyes open. And if anything feels off, you'll tell me. I promise. But nothing felt off. If anything, everything felt impossibly right. Min Jae introduced her to parts of Seoul she'd never seen. Private restaurants where the chef knew him by name. Art galleries after hours where they had entire exhibitions to themselves. A secret garden hidden in the heart of the city where cherry blossoms were just beginning to bloom. He also introduced her to parts of himself he admitted he'd never shown anyone. His vulnerability about his father's death and the burden of expectations. His fears that he'd never be able to fully escape his family's legacy. His dreams of the buildings he wanted to design someday, sketches he showed her late at night when they sat in his study drinking wine. This one, he said, showing her a detailed drawing of a community center, would be for neighborhoods like Itaewon. Places where immigrant families and multicultural kids could gather. Where they'd feel welcome. It's beautiful, Kendra said, studying the elegant lines and thoughtful spaces. You should build it. Maybe someday, Min Jae said. When I'm free. Kendra turned to face him fully. You talk about freedom like it's this far-off thing you have to earn. But Min Jae, you're already making choices every day. You could choose to start living the life you want now, even while you're handling your responsibilities. He looked at her with such intensity it made her breath catch. You make me want to believe that's possible. It is possible. You just have to decide you're worth it. Min Jae pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her. How did I get so lucky to find you? I think your grandmother would say our souls had an agreement, Kendra murmured against his chest. She felt him smile. I think she'd really like you. Is she still alive? Your grandmother. Yes. She lives in Jeju Island now at the family estate there. She's 93 and still sharp as a knife. He paused. I'd like you to meet her. Soon. If you're comfortable with that. Meeting the grandmother felt significant. It felt like a statement that this was serious, that Min Jae saw a future with her. Kendra's heart raced, but not with fear. With excitement. I'd love to meet her. Before you keep watching, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications, because we're posting stories like this every single week on Afro Korean love tales, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Also, drop a comment and tell me, do you think Kendra and Min Jae are moving too fast, or do you believe in love at first sight? Now back to the story, because things are about to get complicated. The complication arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in the form of a phone call. Kendra was at the community center, helping a group of middle schoolers practice their English conversation skills when her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She normally didn't answer those, but something made her pick up. Kendra Morgan? The voice was male, speaking English with a Korean accent. Yes, who is this? My name is Detective Park Jinwoo. I'm with the Seoul Metropolitan Police, Organized Crime Unit. I'd like to speak with you about your relationship with Kang Min Jae. Kendra's stomach dropped. I don't understand. What does my relationship have to do with anything? I'd prefer to discuss this in person. Can you come to the station, or would you prefer I come to you? Am I in some kind of trouble? No, Ms. Morgan. You're not in trouble. We just have some questions. It's routine. Nothing about this felt routine. But Kendra agreed to meet him at a coffee shop near the police station in an hour. She finished her class on autopilot, her mind spinning. Should she call Min Jae? Should she tell him about this? She decided to hear what the detective had to say first. Detective Park was in his 40s, with tired eyes and the bearing of someone who'd seen too much. He was already seated when Kendra arrived, a cup of coffee in front of him. Ms. Morgan, thank you for meeting me, he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. Can I get you something to drink? No, thank you. I'd just like to know what this is about. Detective Park pulled out a tablet and opened a file. You've been seeing Kang Min Jae for approximately 3 weeks now. Is that correct? How do you know that? We've been monitoring Mr. Kang's activities for some time. He's a person of interest in several ongoing investigations. He hasn't done anything wrong, Kendra said, her voice stronger than she felt. He's trying to move away from his family's old business. That may be true, Detective Park said. But the people he's associated with, the people who work for him, they're involved in some very serious crimes. Drug trafficking, money laundering, extortion. We believe Mr. Kang, whether intentionally or not, is still connected to these operations. If you have evidence, why haven't you arrested him? Because we don't have enough yet. That's where you come in. Detective Park leaned forward. Ms. Morgan, I understand you care about him. But you need to understand the danger you're in. These people, they don't hesitate to eliminate threats. And anyone close to Kang Min Jae is automatically a target. Are you trying to scare me? I'm trying to protect you. And I'm also asking for your help. If you hear anything, see anything that might help our investigation, we'd appreciate you coming to us. You wouldn't have to testify. We could protect your identity. Kendra stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. I'm not going to spy on Min Jae. He's been nothing but honest and kind to me. If you want information, get it some other way. Ms. Morgan, please. We're done here. Kendra walked out of the coffee shop, her hands shaking. She made it 2 blocks before she had to stop and lean against a building, trying to catch her breath. She pulled out her phone and called Min Jae. He answered on the first ring. Kendra? Is everything okay? I need to see you. Now. Can you come get me? Where are you? She told him, and he was there in 15 minutes. He took one look at her face and pulled her into his arms. What happened? In the car, with the privacy glass up, Kendra told him everything. About Detective Park, about the questions, about the request that she spy on him. Min Jae listened without interrupting, his jaw getting tighter with every word. I'm so sorry, he said when she finished. I should have anticipated this. I should have warned you that they might try to use you. Why didn't you? Because I didn't want to scare you. Because I hoped maybe, just this once, I could have something pure that wasn't tainted by all the darkness in my life. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You getting dragged into my mess. I chose to be here, Kendra said firmly. You didn't drag me anywhere. You were honest about who you are. I made my choice with my eyes open. But you didn't choose to have the police interrogate you. You didn't choose to be watched and monitored. No, but I did choose you. And that means dealing with the complicated parts too. Min Jae looked at her with something like awe. Most people would have run by now. I'm not most people. I thought we'd established that. He pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. What did you tell Detective Park? That I wouldn't help him. That if he wanted information, he'd have to get it somewhere else. She pulled back to look at him. Min Jae, I need you to be honest with me. Are you still involved in illegal activities? Because if you are, I need to know. No, he said firmly. I swear to you, Kendra. Everything I'm involved in now is legitimate. But the problem is, I have people who work for me who used to be in that world. Some of them still have connections. I can't control everything they do outside of their work for me. And the police, they're looking for any connection they can find to bring me down. Why? If you're not doing anything illegal, why are they so focused on you? Because they think I'm lying. They think I'm just being smarter about hiding things. And, honestly, I understand why they'd think that. My family has a reputation. That doesn't just disappear because I say it does. Kendra processed this, trying to sort through her feelings. Fear. Anger. Determination. So, what do we do? Min Jae looked surprised. Kendra, you don't have to be part of this. I would understand if you wanted to walk away. This is only going to get more complicated. I don't want to walk away. But I need to know that you're going to keep your promise. That you'll always be honest with me, no matter what. Always, Min Jae said. I promise you, always. That night, Kendra couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. About Min Jae. About Detective Park. About the choice she was making to stay in a relationship that came with police surveillance and potential danger. Was she being brave or stupid? Was this love, or was it just the excitement of something dangerous and forbidden? She thought about her father. About what he would say if he were alive. He'd been a cop. He'd dealt with people like Min Jae's family. Would he understand? Would he tell her to run? But then she thought about what her mother had said. About not letting fear keep her small. About living her life fully, even when it was scary. Her phone buzzed. A text from Min Jae. Can't sleep either. Thinking about you. About how lucky I am. About how I don't deserve you, but I'm selfish enough to try to keep you anyway. Kendra smiled in the darkness and typed back. Stop thinking you don't deserve good things. You do. We both do. Now get some sleep. We'll figure it out together. Together. I like the sound of that. Good night, beautiful. Good night. Kendra set her phone down and closed her eyes. Yes, this was complicated. Yes, there were risks. But when she thought about Min Jae, about the way he looked at her, about the dreams he shared late at night, about the person he was trying to become, she knew she was making the right choice. Some things were worth fighting for. The next morning, Kendra woke up to find her apartment buzzing with activity. Jessica was pacing in the living room, her phone pressed to her ear, speaking in rapid Korean. When she saw Kendra, she hung up quickly. We need to talk, Jessica said, her face pale. What's wrong? Jessica pulled up something on her phone and handed it to Kendra. It was a news article, published just an hour ago. The headline read, Kang Min Jae spotted with mystery woman. Is Seoul's most eligible bachelor finally off the market? Below it were photos. Professional quality, clearly taken by a paparazzi. Kendra and Min Jae at the restaurant. Walking through the art gallery. Sitting in his car. And one from the Valentine's Gala, where he was looking at her like she was the only person in the world. Oh no, Kendra whispered. It gets worse, Jessica said, scrolling down. Look at the comments. Kendra didn't want to, but she forced herself to read. The comments were brutal. Racist slurs. Accusations that she was a gold digger. Speculation about her motives. Threats. Actual threats about what people would do if they saw her on the street. Some of these have been reported and removed, Jessica said, but more keep popping up. Kendra, this is serious. People are saying horrible things. Some are even posting about where you work. Kendra's hands started shaking. This was real. This wasn't just about police surveillance or complicated legacies. This was about being thrust into a spotlight she never asked for, being judged by thousands of people who knew nothing about her. Her phone rang. Min Jae. Have you seen the articles? He asked immediately. Yes. I'm so sorry. I'm having my lawyers send cease and desist letters to every publication. I'm getting the worst comments removed. Min Jae, Kendra interrupted. Can you come over? I think we need to talk. Really talk. There was a pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Min Jae arrived in 15 minutes, not 20. He looked like he'd thrown on clothes and rushed out the door, his hair not quite as perfectly styled as usual, worry etched deep in his face. Jessica took one look at him and quietly excused herself to her room, giving them privacy. Kendra, Min Jae started, but she held up a hand. Let me talk first. Please. He nodded, sitting down on the small couch in her living room. It was such a contrast to his elegant home, this tiny apartment with its secondhand furniture and walls thin enough to hear the neighbors. But he looked completely comfortable there, like the setting didn't matter at all. When we met, Kendra began, you warned me about the complications. About the danger. About your world being dark. I thought I understood what that meant. I thought I was prepared. She took a deep breath. But I wasn't prepared for this. For strangers hating me without knowing me. For people threatening me online. For my personal life becoming entertainment for people I've never met. I know, Min Jae said quietly. And I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is why I've never let anyone close before. Because everything I touch gets contaminated by the spotlight, by the expectations, by the hatred. But here's the thing, Kendra continued, her voice getting stronger. I'm angry about it. I'm scared of it. But I'm not running from it. Because when I think about giving you up to avoid all of this, the thought of not having you in my life hurts worse than anything those strangers could say about me. Min Jae's eyes widened. You mean that? I mean that. But I need something from you. I need you to help me understand how to navigate this. Because I've never dated someone famous or powerful or in the public eye. I need you to teach me how to protect myself without losing myself. Can you do that? Min Jae crossed the small space between them and took her hands. I can do that. And Kendra, I promise you, I'll do everything in my power to shield you from the worst of it. I've already hired a security team to monitor the threats and make sure you're safe. I've got people scrubbing the internet of the most vicious comments. I've reached out to the publications to make it clear that any harassment of you will result in legal action. A security team? Kendra repeated. Min Jae, I can't afford. You're not paying for anything. I am. And before you argue, this isn't about money or control. This is about me taking responsibility for the fact that being with me has put you in danger. Let me do this. Please. Kendra wanted to argue. She'd always been independent, always taken care of herself. But she also wasn't stupid. The threats were real. And if Min Jae could help keep her safe, her pride wasn't worth more than her safety. Okay, she said. But I need to maintain my normal life as much as possible. I still need to work. I still need to see my friends. I can't live in a bubble. I understand. The security will be discreet. You won't even know they're there most of the time. But they'll be close enough to help if anything happens. What about my students? What if someone tries to cause problems at the community center? I've already contacted the center's director. They're implementing additional security measures. And I've made a donation to help fund it so it doesn't come out of their operating budget. Of course he had. Because that was who Min Jae was. Someone who saw a problem and fixed it, who protected the people he cared about with every resource at his disposal. Thank you, Kendra said softly. For all of it. You don't need to thank me. You're mine to protect. He paused, seeming to realize how that sounded. I don't mean that possessively. I mean that you're important to me. Probably the most important person in my life right now. And I take care of what's important to me. Kendra leaned forward and kissed him. It was the first time they'd kissed, despite weeks of dating. They'd held hands, hugged, shared intimate conversations, but Min Jae had been almost old-fashioned in his courtship, never pushing for physical intimacy. But now, with everything happening, Kendra needed this connection. Needed to feel that despite all the chaos swirling around them, what they had was real and solid. Min Jae responded immediately, his hand coming up to cup her face, his thumb stroking her cheek. The kiss was tender but intense, full of all the feelings they'd been building for weeks. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that since the moment I saw you," Min Jae admitted. "Then why didn't you?" "Because I wanted to do this right. I wanted you to know that I value you for more than just physical attraction. That this is about your mind, your heart, your soul, not just your beautiful face. You really are something else, Kang Min Jae." Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Definitely good. They spent the rest of the morning talking strategy. Min Jae explained how to handle media attention, how to avoid giving paparazzi good shots, what to say and what not to say if anyone approached her with questions. He showed her how the security team would work, introduced her via video call to the team leader, a serious woman named Agent Kim who had 15 years of experience in personal protection. "We'll have someone near you at all times when you're in public," Agent Kim explained. "But we'll maintain enough distance that it won't interfere with your daily activities. Think of us as guardian angels. You won't see us, but we're always there." It was surreal. A month ago, Kendra had been a normal English teacher living a quiet life. Now she had a security detail. By the time this is over, make sure you've hit that like button and subscribe to Afro Korean Love Tales, because we've got so many more amazing stories coming your way. And let me know in the comments, do you think Kendra is handling this situation well, or would you have reacted differently? Now, let's get back to the story, because Kendra is about to meet someone very important. 2 weeks later, Min Jae took Kendra to Jeju Island to meet his grandmother. They flew on a private plane, another reminder of just how different their worlds were. But Min Jae seemed more nervous than Kendra had ever seen him. "She's going to love you," Kendra assured him as they drove from the airport to the family estate. "You don't understand," Min Jae said. "My grandmother is the matriarch of the family. Her opinion matters more than anyone else's. If she doesn't approve of you, it will make everything much more complicated. And if she does approve, then we have her blessing and her protection. Which, trust me, is worth more than you can imagine." The Kang family estate in Jeju is stunning. Traditional Korean architecture set among beautiful gardens with views of the ocean in the distance. An older woman in a hanbok stood on the front steps, her posture perfect despite her age. "Grandmother," Min Jae said, bowing deeply. His grandmother studied them both with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Then she spoke in Korean, her voice surprisingly strong for someone in her 90s. "So this is the woman who has captured my grandson's heart. The one the entire country is talking about." "Yes, grandmother," Min Jae replied in Korean. "This is Kendra Morgan." "Kendra, this is my grandmother, Kang Hae-won." Kendra bowed, trying to remember all the etiquette Min Jae had taught her. "It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. Kang." To her surprise, Grandmother Kang smiled. "You speak Korean?" "Yes, ma'am. Not perfectly, but I've been studying for 4 years. Better than most foreigners who come here and expect everyone to speak English to them." She gestured toward the house. "Come. We'll have tea and talk." The interior of the house was beautiful, traditional but comfortable. They sat in a room overlooking the gardens, and a servant brought tea and small rice cakes. Grandmother Kang studied Kendra over her teacup. "Tell me about yourself. Not what the newspapers say. The truth." So Kendra did. She told her about growing up in Chicago, about her father's death, about her mother's strength, about why she came to Korea and what she did there. She talked about her students, about the community center, about her dreams of making education more accessible. Grandmother Kang listened without interrupting, her expression giving nothing away. When Kendra finished, there was a long silence. "My grandson tells me you know about our family's history," Grandmother Kang finally said. "About the complications." "Yes, ma'am. He's been very honest with me." "And yet you stay." "Why?" Kendra chose her words carefully. "Because I believe people are more than their circumstances. Min Jae didn't choose the family he was born into. But he is choosing the man he wants to become. I see that man. I believe in that man. And I want to support him in becoming that man. Grandmother Kang's expression softened slightly. You understand that being with him will not be easy. There will always be people who judge you. Who say terrible things. Who wish you harm simply because of who he is. I'm already experiencing that, Kendra said honestly. And yes, it's hard. But losing him would be harder. Do you love him? The question was direct, almost blunt. Kendra felt Min Jae tense beside her. They hadn't said those words to each other yet, hadn't defined what they had in those terms. But looking at Grandmother Kang's knowing eyes, Kendra realized she couldn't lie. Not here. Not to this woman who seemed to see straight through to the truth. Yes, Kendra said quietly. I love him. She felt Min Jae's sharp intake of breath beside her, but she kept her eyes on his grandmother. Grandmother Kang nodded slowly. Good. Because he loves you too. I can see it. The way he looks at you. The way he speaks about you. The way he's changed since meeting you. She turned to Min Jae. Your grandfather looked at me the same way, you know. 68 years ago, when we first met. Everyone said we were too different. That it wouldn't work. But we had something that transcended all the practical concerns. We had destiny. You believe in destiny, grandmother? Kendra asked. I believe that some souls are meant to find each other. That they make agreements before birth. That when they meet, they recognize each other immediately, even if they can't explain why. She smiled. My grandson told me about our family story. About how I used to talk about soul agreements. He always thought it was just an old woman's superstition. But now he understands, doesn't he? Min Jae reached over and took Kendra's hand. Yes, grandmother. Now I understand. Grandmother Kang stood, and they both rose respectfully. She approached Kendra and took both of her hands. Welcome to the family, child. You have my blessing and my protection. Anyone who wishes you harm will have to go through me first. And despite my age, I am still not someone people want to cross. There was steel in her voice, a reminder that this gentle-looking old woman had survived decades in a world most people couldn't imagine. Thank you, Kendra said, feeling emotion well up in her throat. That means more than you know. After lunch, Min Jae and Kendra walked through the gardens together. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom, petals drifting down like pink snow. You told my grandmother you love me, Min Jae said. I did. Did you mean it? Kendra stopped walking and turned to face him. Yes. I meant it. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But yes, I love you. Min Jae cupped her face in his hands. I love you too. I think I loved you from the moment I saw you across that ballroom, looking so beautiful and brave despite everyone trying to make you feel small. I love your strength. Your compassion. Your unwavering belief that people can change and grow. I love everything about you, Kendra Morgan. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, while cherry blossoms fell around them like a blessing. When they returned to Seoul 2 days later, everything felt different. More solid. More real. They'd said the words. They'd met the family. They were building something that went beyond initial attraction or excitement. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. Kendra was at the community center, teaching her Thursday afternoon class, when Agent Kim appeared in the doorway. Her expression was serious. Ms. Morgan, I need you to come with me. Now. What's wrong? Is it Min Jae? He's fine. But there's been a development. I'll explain in the car, but we need to leave immediately. Kendra quickly explained to the center's director that she had an emergency and would make up the class. Then she followed Agent Kim to an armored SUV waiting outside. What's going on? Kendra demanded as soon as they were inside. There's been a threat. A credible one. Someone with connections to a rival organization has put out a contract on you. Kendra's blood ran cold. A contract? You mean like they're paying someone to hurt you? Yes. Agent Kim's voice was calm but firm. We're taking you to a safe house until we can neutralize the threat. Mr. Kang has already been informed. Where is he? Dealing with the situation. He'll meet you at the safe house as soon as he can. The safe house turned out to be a nondescript apartment in a high-security building in Gangnam. Agent Kim swept the space efficiently while 2 other security personnel stood guard. You'll be safe here, Agent Kim assured her. Nobody knows this location except the security team and Mr. Kang. We have everything you need. Food, clothes, toiletries. You just need to stay inside until we give the all clear. How long will that be? I don't know. Could be hours. Could be days. It depends on how quickly we can identify and neutralize the threat. Kendra sat down on the couch, trying to process this. Someone wanted to hurt her. Not because of anything she'd done, but simply because she was with Min Jae. This was real danger now. Not internet trolls or nasty comments. Real, physical danger. Her phone buzzed. Min Jae, are you okay? He asked immediately. Physically, yes. Mentally, I'm trying to keep it together. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I should have anticipated this. Should have protected you better. Min Jae, you can't control everything. But I can control this. And I will. I promise you, Kendra. The people who threatened you will regret it. I'm handling it personally. Something in his voice made her uneasy. What does that mean? Handling it personally? There was a pause. It means I'm reminding certain people why it's a very bad idea to threaten what's mine. Min Jae, please don't do anything that will. That will what? Land me in jail? Prove the police right about me. His voice was hard now, harder than she'd ever heard it. Kendra, there are some situations that can't be resolved through lawyers and legal channels. Sometimes, you have to speak a language these people understand. And trust me, I'm fluent in that language. I don't want you becoming someone you're not because of me. I'm not becoming anyone. I'm remembering who I've always been. Who I had to be to survive in this world. I've been trying so hard to change, to be better, to walk away from all of it. But maybe that was naive. Maybe you can't ever really leave this world. Maybe it's in my blood. Don't say that, Kendra said urgently. You are not your family's legacy. You are your own person. You get to choose. Do I? Because right now, it feels like my choices are to use the power and connections I have to protect you, or to be noble and ethical and watch you get hurt. That's not really a choice, is it? Kendra didn't know what to say. Because he was right. This wasn't some abstract moral debate. This was about her safety, her life. And if Min Jae had to get his hands dirty to keep her safe, could she really blame him? Just promise me you'll come back to me, she said finally. Whatever you have to do, promise me you'll come back. I promise. I'll always come back to you. Min Jae hung up, and Kendra was left alone in the safe house with her thoughts and fears. Agent Kim had positioned herself by the window, vigilant and professional, but offering no comfort beyond her presence. Hours passed. Kendra tried to distract herself with television, with books, with anything that would keep her mind from spiraling into worst-case scenarios. But it was impossible. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart leaped, hoping it was Min Jae saying everything was resolved. Finally, at nearly midnight, she heard voices outside the apartment door. Agent Kim's hand went to her weapon, then relaxed as she checked her phone. It's Mr. Kang, she said, opening the door. Min Jae walked in, and Kendra's breath caught. He looked tired, his tie loosened, his shirt slightly wrinkled, but he was whole and unharmed. She ran to him, and he caught her in his arms, holding her tight. It's over, he said into her hair. The threat has been neutralized. You're safe. What happened? I had a conversation with some people. Made it very clear that you are under my protection and that any harm to you would result in consequences they couldn't afford. They've withdrawn the contract and issued orders to their people to leave you alone. Just like that. Just like that. His voice was grim. When you speak the right language, things get resolved quickly. Kendra pulled back to look at his face. What did you have to do? Nothing you need to worry about. Nothing illegal. Just reminders of certain mutually assured destruction scenarios that these organizations prefer to avoid. He touched her face gently. You're safe. That's all that matters. What about the police? Detective Park. Let him come. I've done nothing that can be used against me in court. I've simply exercised my right to protect someone I love. Agent Kim cleared her throat discreetly. Sir, I'll give you two some privacy. I'll be right outside if you need anything. After she left, Min Jae led Kendra to the couch and pulled her down beside him. I've been thinking, he said. About everything. About us. About whether it's fair to keep asking you to stay in this world with me. Kendra's heart clenched. Are you breaking up with me? What? No. God, no. He took her hands. The opposite. I'm saying that if you want to stay with me, if you want to build a life with me, then I need to make sure that life is safe. That means accelerating my plans to fully legitimize everything. No more gray areas. No more connections to the old world, even tangential ones. You said that would take years. I said it would take 5 to 10 years if I did it gradually, carefully, to minimize disruption. But I can do it faster if I'm willing to accept some losses, if I'm willing to burn some bridges. And I am. Because having you in my life, having a future with you, that's worth more than maintaining relationships with people I never wanted to be associated with in the first place. Min Jae, I don't want you to lose everything because of me. You're not understanding. You're not taking anything away. You're giving me a reason to finally do what I should have done years ago. You're giving me permission to choose the life I want instead of the life I inherited. Kendra felt tears prick her eyes. You really mean that? I really mean that. And there's something else. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Kendra's breath stopped. Min Jae. Before you panic, this isn't what you think. Not yet. He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver ring with a small diamond. In Korea, couples often exchange promise rings before they get engaged. It's a way of saying that you're committed to each other, that you're moving toward a future together. I know we've only known each other for 2 months. I know that's fast by anyone's standards. But I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. So I'm asking if you'll accept this ring as a promise. A promise that when the time is right, when everything is settled and safe, I'm going to ask you to marry me. And I'm hoping you'll say yes. Kendra looked at the ring, then at Min Jae's face and saw everything she'd ever wanted. Love. Partnership. Someone who saw her, all of her, and chose her anyway. Someone who was willing to change his entire life to build a future with her. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll accept your promise. And yes, when you ask me properly, I'll say yes to that too. Min Jae's face broke into a smile that transformed him completely. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like it had been made for her. I love you, Kendra Morgan. I love you too, Kang Min Jae. They kissed, and for a moment, all the danger and complications faded away. There was just the two of them, two souls who'd found each other across an impossible divide and decided to build a bridge. The next 6 months were a whirlwind. Min Jae kept his promise, systematically cutting ties with anyone connected to illegal activities. Some went quietly, grateful for generous severance packages and references for legitimate work. Others resisted, but Min Jae was firm. He also brought in external auditors to examine every aspect of his business empire, ensuring that everything was completely above board. Detective Park wasn't happy about it. He'd been hoping to build a case, but Min Jae's aggressive legitimization strategy left him with nothing to investigate. Eventually, the organized crime unit had to shift its focus elsewhere. The media attention gradually died down too. There would always be people who had opinions about their relationship, but as the weeks passed and no scandal emerged, no drama erupted, the public lost interest. They were just another couple, albeit a high-profile one. Kendra continued teaching, but Min Jae's donation to the International Education Foundation had opened up new opportunities. She was promoted to program director, overseeing educational initiatives across Seoul. It meant more responsibility, but also more impact. She was helping hundreds of students now, not just her own small classes. Jessica finally came around too. Okay, I admit it, she said one evening over dinner. I was wrong about him. He's actually a good guy. A really good guy. And the way he looks at you makes me believe in love again. High praise from the cynic, Kendra teased. I'm not a cynic. I'm a realist. And the reality is that you two are disgustingly perfect together. Min Jae's grandmother visited Seoul for his birthday in August. She and Kendra had grown close over video calls and occasional visits to Jeju Island. Grandmother King had become something of a surrogate grandmother to Kendra, offering advice and wisdom and stories about Min Jae as a child that made him blush. She likes you more than she likes me, Min Jae complained good-naturedly. That's because I actually listened to her stories instead of trying to change the subject, Kendra replied. Her stories are all designed to embarrass me. Exactly. That's what makes them entertaining. By October, Min Jae had completed his business transformation. Every aspect of his empire was now fully legitimate, transparent, and ethical. He'd lost some partnerships and some revenue, but he'd gained something more valuable: freedom. The freedom to live without looking over his shoulder. The freedom to build the life he wanted. He also started designing buildings again. His first project was the community center he'd shown Kendra in his sketches, the one for multicultural families in Itaewon. Construction began in November, funded entirely by the Kang Foundation, a charitable organization he'd established. I want to leave a different legacy, he told Kendra as they toured the construction site. Not money or power or fear, but something that actually helps people. Something good. You already are, Kendra said, squeezing his hand. Every single day. Hey, before we wrap this up, make sure you've subscribed to Afro Korean Love Tales and hit that notification bell, because we've got incredible stories dropping every week. And if this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Now let's see how Kendra and Min Jae's story ends. Valentine's Day came around again, exactly 1 year after they'd first met. Min Jae had planned something special, though he refused to tell Kendra what it was. Just trust me, he said. And wear something nice. He picked her up at sunset, looking devastating in a dark suit. But instead of taking her to a restaurant or the hotel where they'd met, he drove her to a location she didn't recognize. It turned out to be a private rooftop in Gangnam, transformed into a magical space with thousands of lights, flowers, and candles. Min Jae, Kendra breathed. This is beautiful. Not as beautiful as you. In the center of the rooftop was a table set for two, with champagne chilling and what looked like a carefully curated menu. But Min Jae led her past it to the edge of the rooftop, where they could see the entire city spread out below them. 1 year ago, he said, I was standing in a ballroom, feeling like I was suffocating in a life that didn't fit me anymore. I was going through the motions, pretending everything was fine, but inside I was empty. And then I saw you. And everything changed. For me too, Kendra said softly. You challenged me to be better. To actually live the values I claim to have instead of just talking about them. You showed me what real courage looks like. You didn't run when things got hard. You didn't judge me for my past. You just saw me, the real me, and decided I was worth loving. Because you are worth loving. You always were. Min Jae took both her hands. I promised you that when everything was settled, when things were safe and stable, I would ask you properly. Well, everything is settled. My businesses are legitimate. The threats are gone. I'm free to live the life I want. And the life I want is with you. He dropped to one knee, and Kendra's hands flew to her mouth. Kendra Morgan, you walked into my life like a force of nature and changed everything. You made me believe in destiny, in soul agreements, in the idea that two people from completely different worlds can find each other and build something beautiful together. I don't want to spend another day without you. I don't want to build a future that doesn't have you in it. Will you marry me? He opened a box to reveal a stunning ring, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds that caught the light and sparkled like the night sky. Yes, Kendra said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Min Jae slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her as fireworks suddenly exploded in the sky above them. Because of course he'd arranged fireworks. Because that's who he was, someone who went all out for the people he loved. I can't believe this is real, Kendra said, staring at the ring on her finger. Sometimes I think I'm going to wake up and discover this whole year was a dream. It's real, Min Jae assured her. And it's just the beginning. We have our whole lives ahead of us. Building the community center. Expanding your education programs. Maybe designing more buildings. Maybe traveling the world. Maybe having a family someday, if you want that. I want all of it. As long as I have you. They had dinner under the stars, talking and laughing and planning their future. Min Jae told her he'd already spoken to her mother, who'd given her blessing and was planning to fly to Seoul for the wedding. Kendra told him about her ideas for educational partnerships between Korean and American schools. They talked about where they'd live, what kind of wedding they wanted, whether they'd hyphenate their last names. I like Kendra, Kang Min Jae said. It has a nice ring to it. What about Kang Morgan? Best of both worlds. I like that even better. It represents what we're building. A bridge between two worlds. A new kind of family. As the night deepened, they stood at the edge of the rooftop again, wrapped in each other's arms, looking out at the city that had brought them together. You know what's crazy? Kendra said. If I hadn't gone to that gala, if Soo-jin hadn't given me that invitation, if I'd been too intimidated or too tired or just decided to stay home, none of this would have happened. I would have found you anyway, Min Jae said with certainty. Maybe not that night, maybe not that way. But I would have found you. Because we were meant to find each other. Our souls had an agreement, remember? Your grandmother's theory. My grandmother's wisdom. She knew before we did. Kendra turned in his arms to face him. I'm so glad I didn't let them make me feel small that night. I'm so glad I held my head high even when they were mocking me. Because if I'd left, if I'd let them win. But you didn't, Min Jae interrupted gently. You stood there, beautiful and brave, and you let me find you. You let me fall in love with you. You gave me permission to become the man I always wanted to be. We saved each other, Kendra said. You showed me that love doesn't have to hurt. That I deserve someone who sees my worth and protects it. And I showed you that change is possible. That your past doesn't define your future. We saved each other, Min Jae agreed. And now we get to build a life together. A beautiful, complicated, perfectly imperfect life. They kissed under the stars, two souls who'd found each other across impossible odds, who'd chosen love even when it was hard, even when it was scary, even when the whole world seemed against them. Because that's what real love is. It's not just the easy moments, the romantic gestures, the perfect Instagram photos. It's choosing each other every single day. It's fighting for each other when things get tough. It's believing in each other even when the world says you're wrong. Kendra and Min Jae had learned that lesson the hard way. They'd faced judgment, threats, police investigations, media scrutiny, and their own fears and doubts. But they'd faced it all together, and that had made all the difference. 6 months later, they were married in a beautiful ceremony that blended Korean and American traditions. Grandmother Kang gave them her blessing. Kendra's mother cried happy tears. Jessica was the maid of honor. And when Min Jae and Kendra exchanged vows, promising to love each other through whatever life brought them, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. They honeymooned in Bali, spent 2 weeks disconnected from the world, just enjoying each other and the life they were building. When they returned to Seoul, the community center was nearly complete. Kendra's education programs had expanded to 5 cities across Korea. And Min Jae had received his first commission for a building design from an architecture firm that wanted to work with him. Life wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still moments of stress and doubt and fear. But they faced everything together, as partners, as equals, as two souls who'd recognized each other and chosen to build a life together. And every Valentine's Day, they returned to that rooftop where Min Jae had proposed. They'd recreate that magical night, remembering how far they'd come, how much they'd overcome, and how grateful they were to have found each other. Because in a world that tried to tell them they didn't belong together, they'd proven that love transcends all boundaries. That when two souls are meant to be together, nothing, not race, not background, not danger, not judgment, nothing can keep them apart. They'd found each other in a crowded ballroom where everyone mocked the black woman who didn't belong. Until the Korean Mafia boss announced she was his Valentine. And changed both their lives forever. If you love this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to Afro Korean Love Tales for more incredible stories about love that crosses boundaries and breaks down barriers. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they deserve a love that sees them, values them, and fights for them. Drop a comment below and tell us your favorite part of Kendra and Min Jae's journey. And remember, your perfect love story might be just one brave moment away. Don't let fear or judgment keep you from it. Until next time, keep believing in love.